do the intro or anything like that. I keep screwing it up and it just keeps looking more homoerotic. So we'll just say, hey guys, welcome to Red Morning. We're doing nostalgia. What the hey? Um,
Man, I thought you were going to do a new intro this week, man, with like me as Maverick, you as Iceman.
I'm thinking about it, but now I don't know if you noticed, but I'm doing like a new thing now where because I'm tired of everybody talking about the newest thing that has nothing to do with anything. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna start like a very quick, easy series where I literally do like first year Royce, like 2007 level stuff. Back when guys just wanted to have fun, get laid, and crack some jokes at fat chicks.
I think we need to go back to that though.
Oh, that's the plan anyway.
Like I even had a guy he hit me up in my mentions here, and just as a data point. I always thought you guys were funny on Twitter, but I don't have any need for this community. I see this as a very self-aware joke about your impenetrable jargon and infinite games. Though, so I'm finally listening. I assume that's the goal.
Yeah, nailed it. I can't believe he figured us out that quickly. Thank God he went to university.
Yeah, I just think it's a marketing driven thing. Because if you tell anyone, okay, go read first year Rolo, first year Royce, and catch like two YouTube clips of mystery and you'll have everything figured out, there's no money there.
Of course not. Actually, maybe there is. I don't know. I heard Mystery came back. I don't know whatever happened to that. I saw one video of him. He's got his head shaved and now he wears a beanie instead of a top hat, but who knows?
Well, I'm not sure how the beanie is making him stand out. Is that really peacocking? Maybe he's using his kid as his way of peacocking now.
I'm 50-year-old with a kid peacocking. Paints the kid's nails. Dude, I don't know. That's what I'm kind of curious about because there's been a few guys I've been talking to over the years. Like they actually worked for what do they called it? Love Systems or whatever.
Venusian arts.
Yeah. But so they used to work for that as like a coach, ran their own layers and stuff, and then they're coming and talk to me about the relationship stuff, and it's amazingly consistent how it is where it's like all those pickup tools, as soon as they got their girlfriend, they're like, all right, don't need these anymore. And then they're not realizing that I don't get it. How did my girl lose attraction for me? All I did was stop doing all the stuff that hooked her in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing I'm having. Like I quit my diet and I gained weight. I mean, what the fuck? That wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's funny. You could put it in just about like any terms at all. And everybody's like, of course, why wouldn't you? And then you add a girl into the mix. They're like, dude, what are you, misogynist? Like that dude I was shitting on Rich yesterday. I don't know if you saw that. Some
Oh, the
guy with
Harry
10
Potter dude?
followers. Yeah, the Harry Potter guy.
Yeah, but to be honest though, like he would love Rich's Harry Potter fan fiction.
Oh, I have no doubts.
It's absolutely awesome when Harry breaks out like the red light he shines at his balls, and then Hermione suddenly starts wanting to date him.
All right. Full disclosure, by the way, I've never watched or read a Harry Potter book or movie. I literally don't know the characters. I think I know
Oh, I actually
Herobrine
read one.
because that's the chick, or it's the dude from Minecraft. I'm not sure which.
No, I read a couple of them just out of like not because I wanted to read them, but because Christopher Hitchens referred to them in one of his debates.
Yeah.
And then I had to go and see, okay, is he actually right about this shit? And I'm like, also, like, why did Christopher Hitchens read Harry Potter?
Figure guys like that have to. You got to get your finger on the pulse with what the kids are doing nowadays. Although I guess, yeah, back then we were 20. Now it's like millennials are 45 and sitting there still wearing their Tim Pool beanies talking about how boomers ruined everything. By the way, moment of silence. I thought boomers were the absolute worst thing for like the future, and millennials have like taken that ball and just run with it, man. We're awesome. Nah, I think we'll just keep you at home all day. Never leave the house. Fuck.
Part of me is actually enjoying that lockdown shit way too bloody much.
Parts of it. Parts of it are fine. I like the work from home thing. I like how I spend a shit ton less money. Like a ton less. It's not even close. My girl spends less, which is also awesome. The part I don't like, honestly, I just loved having an office at Starbucks. I got through like a degree, 7 courses a semester while working with the military just by going to Starbucks, popping a couple race tams, and then just like cranking out assignments and essays and whatever.
You could actually work at Starbucks?
No, I didn't. Well, I like did some work. I didn't get a job there. I just
No,
sat
no, I
down
know
at
what
the
you mean,
table.
but like I just couldn't get into like working in public like that. I always felt like I should be writing the great American novel, but end up, publishing how Bigfoot banged the bimbo on Amazon under a pseudonym.
Well, that's the thing. So, like, you know how you kind of want to be by yourself and like no distractions and get your work done, right? It has that anonymity distraction free thing. Because when I'm at home, I could just sit here and go on, you know what, a couple minutes of tech and I deserve a break. And then 4 hours later, I'm like, I haven't done anything. But I'm there. I can't like screw around doing anything. But at the same time, people are yapping, worrying about their own, pumpkin spice lattes. And so it's just like a perfect anonymity. They're on your headset. Good to go.
Well, that's kind of why I like working at the bar because if you're in the bar with your laptop drinking scotch at 2 o'clock in the afternoon wearing a suit, no one wants to talk to you.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, that was the one thing I had to switch out. I had wore uniform on, and I wore it a couple times, but then people kept asking too many questions because I was like the only sailor people had ever seen in Montreal, so I had to stop doing that. So I used to get changed when I switched over because every question's stupid. Like you can already guess, 3 questions you're always going to get asked. Why aren't you wearing bell bottoms? Something about the village people and being gay, and then the third one is Canada has a navy. And then all 3 questions, I just want to stab myself in the eye with that plastic fucking green thing.
I would say, does Canada have a military? I did not know that.
Yeah, nobody does. Nobody does until the Germans start coming across the hill. Then all of a sudden, the Newfoundlanders taking things back with 200 people. We, I think that's our big thing. Is like we always have some kind of weird Newfoundland regiment somewhere that takes on an army 10 times its size and win while half drunk.
Yeah, kind of like that. What's it called? The White Shadow or whatever. That Finnish Winter War sniper
Oh yeah, that guy was awesome.
who killed like a couple of thousand Germans or whatever it was, just running around in the woods sniping people.
With like an iron sight hunting rifle he had for hunting deer or something like that too. It wasn't even anything military style.
That I love those stories, man. It's like the last guy who actually went into battle playing the
Hmm.
bagpipes and wielding a claymore.
Oh yeah, yeah. I kind of vaguely remember seeing that on like some
Yeah, I think it
YouTube
was Jack.
historical thing.
I think it was Jack Churchill. Churchill, and if I remember correctly, he dispatched a machine gun nest of Germans in World War II with a claymore.
I guess when you're that close. Anyways,
Well,
thanks Heather for the $2 super chat. I don't know if you're calling me a cock, but I can get with that.
my stance on it is just like imagine being in that machine gun nest. You'll expect a guy to come over the hill with, a gun, maybe a bayonet, maybe, like some kind of combat knife, but a dude comes over there with a Scottish style, like 6, 7 foot long claymore.
And he's jumping into the trench, so he's probably all you can see is like testicles with like a kilt surrounding it coming at you too. So it's like I I can imagine it's like how NBA players feel when Michael Jordan used to dunk on them and got the nuts right on their chin.
Yeah, speaking of nuts on chin, what was the sphere like when we were new? Like I got in here in like 2002,
Yeah, I
and
think I
back
was
then we had like
2003.
we had like two forums. It was like alt seduction fast, and then so suave. I think was already running.
That was basically it. Dude, I remember like for me it was just I somehow happened upon the DVDs. I don't even remember how I managed to get them and then I watched them and then I was hooked cuz at the time I was like sailing so much. I couldn't get a second date with anybody because it was impossible. I even like I so went so far as to talk about it in the book where it's like, "Hey, I had a great time, Susan. I'd love to see you again in 3 weeks when I'm back." And she's like, "Yeah, okay." Didn't go so well. And I'm like, "All right, so clearly this has got to be a one and done or I'm done."
Yeah,
And
like
it's
I've
just so
done
fun.
like I've done the 2 week gap before, but 2 weeks is kind of the longest you can go without any kind of maintenance in between.
Hmm. Yeah, and
Because the 2 week one is not too far that they're going to be in trouble for it, and as long as you keep texting them while you're gone, it's fine if it's a plausible excuse.
oh yeah, but in my case, I don't have reception. They don't have reception in the Pacific Ocean, so I was basically cut off from everything.
Yeah, so that's kind of hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
but
more Ryan plays Tekken, the more he starts to look like a character. He's like one of those dodgy ones you unlock in like a bootleg Japanese version.
son of a bitch bastard, why you got to get on me like that? Well, that's what I loved about it there too. It wasn't just the pickup. Like there was the pickup stuff. There was mystery doing that, but it was fun. Like as far up as, and you might not know this, it was a Canadian thing. They had a show called Keys to the VIP. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of it. You've mentioned it like 47 times.
It was awesome. So it wasn't even so much that it was just, here's some manuals on how to get laid and beat your crippling depression. Here's Adderall, aka women. Go get them, tigers. Keys to the VIP was like fun. They'd interview guys like a reality show, and they're like, all right, get out there, go get a girl's phone number saying you got a foot fetish. And it was like these weird pickup games, and you'd watch it, get yourself pumped before you go out to the bar, and you're like, yeah, this is fun. But the whole thing was fun. Nobody took it too seriously. I mean, Mystery wore a fucking top hat. How seriously do you think he took it? Dressed like Mr. Peanut.
Well, Mystery's whole thing, like the strongest part of his game was always kind of like that rebuttal / anti-AMOG game.
Yeah.
So his entire thing was to get girls and other guys to shit test them so he could shut them down. So that's why he wore that idiotic getup, because, you're not going to get a lot of people. Let's say you wear like the normal kind of peacocking stuff people wore for the most part, like maybe bracelets, rings, maybe a necklace.
Right.
Maybe if you're going adventurous, you'd wear some kind of hat, but not full top hat, just something extra.
Yeah.
And Mystery shows up there in fucking platform boots, a full-length leather coat, about 8 pounds of jewelry, a top hat, and pilot goggles.
Basically, the Rocketeer meets Neo from the Matrix meets Mr. Peanut.
Yeah, and all getting ready to go to a Kiss concert.
And the guys in the chat here is going off too. But that was the part I liked about it. I don't think it's there anymore. I mean, people from the chat who just got to the sphere will have to let me know. But you know what I mean? Like, he had anti-AMOG in game, and that was it. Just goad somebody into trying to talk smack to you to get the whammon, and then just shoot them down and go do your thing and ask girl to hold your drink. He had fun. Granted, he had crippling depression, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he's bipolar, isn't he? So he's like mixed between crippling depression and extreme mania.
You know what? That would make sense then with a lot of it. And Neil Strauss, they could not have stereotyped him better as like the everyman in the pickup world. Like the average guy in that 2000s get up. Remember that brief period where people were like, let's put a t-shirt over my dress shirt to show I'm cool. And I always thought 90s fashion had crossed the line in stupidity. And they're like, no, we got you.
Yeah, I especially liked like the rock get up at that time where you had like the t-shirt over the long sleeve Henley.
Oh yeah, those ones too. I remember that look. That was just before like UFC became a thing too, I think.
Yeah, I think it was like 2002, 2003.
But yeah, I remember that one. I almost wanted to start doing that again because I got all the gear for it. But then I got to remember, it's like, don't dress like an old guy. Don't dress like an old guy, and don't dress like an old guy trying to dress like a young guy. Like, I poked fun at, I don't know if you watch Tim Pool, but Jack Murphy was down on there now with his best, Hello Fellow Children outfit. And I talk about it all the time because it's just fucking brilliant.
I know. I just can't get over that beard, man. I love beards, but that beard is something else.
Oh, the Dr. Frankenstein beard he's got going on?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with that beard, but it's not a good look.
But yeah, the fun parts of it. Here, one sec. Everybody's making fun of this. Let me blur the thing around so it doesn't look like Sega CD for you guys. There you go. But it wasn't, but the point was, it was fun. Like, yeah, there was a lot of the marketers doing the shilling thing. I mean, RSD had their whole camp, Mystery had his whole camp, and everybody was there trying to sell and pitch whatever, but at least it was still enjoyable, and there was like an entertainment factor. I think even America had Keys or VH1's what was the VH1
show? Yeah, the pickup artist.
Yeah, the pickup artist.
Yeah, but that show was hilarious though, because that show, you had like all kinds of retards on there. Like, you had all the stereotypes. You had like the artist, you had the fashion disaster, you had the fat dude.
Yeah.
And you had all of those stereotypes. And what was kind of funny with it is the guy who won was always the ugly duckling. You've seen the movie She's All That, right?
Yeah.
Where, like, at that point, like, if Hollywood needed an ugly chick, they'd take a really hot chick, strip off most of her makeup, put her hair in a ponytail, put her in baggy clothes, and put glasses on her.
Always has to be those ugly turtle shells. I remember this.
Yeah, it's kind of the same principle on the pickup artist where they have this guy who was like a good looking dude. He was in shape. He was kind of socially aware, just a little bit off, maybe a little bit bad with the keno and everything. And
Yeah.
they just put him in decent clothes. They'd take his glasses off and get him contacts, get him a shave. And it's like, okay, this guy is fucking slaying.
Yeah. It is. And it's what you've been saying since I remember you starting here back in the return here in 2000, whatever, 2017, 15, whatever year it was.
Yeah.
Just literally, most guys, you're not as bad off as you think. Just fix the really easy, stupid stuff, and you'll be fine. It may be a bit of a slog. You won't slay as much as James Bond, but, do you really want James Bond level poon? You got shit to do in the day.
Well, I just want people to have fun. And the worst thing I saw back then was like when people started treating game as life. Because it's a part of life, it's an important part of life. But let's say you're dropping out of your engineering degree to go run more gaming clubs.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have your priorities mixed up there, buddy.
Oh, yeah, let's hope so. That must have sucked too. And that's like deciding to become a computer game programmer right as E.T. came out for the Atari and the industry just tanks. Oh, I guess bad on that one. Invest everything you had in 2019 in restaurants and travel industry stuff. Like, this is perfect. They're going to blow up in 2020.
And going hard on Royal Caribbean cruise lines and Carnival cruise lines and going, what would be some of the other good ones?
Oh, yeah. Any airline.
I'd probably consider looking into those now just on the basis that there's going to be a rebound. So just look at whoever has the best cash balance on books that they will survive.
Oh, dude, they all did. They've all been hoarding money for the last years. The airlines, that's where I was mostly looking at in Canada, like airlines and travel stuff there. The bounce back happened, like there's a huge one that just happened last month. But the bounce back happened maybe 3 months in. Like Air Canada, for example, went from 56 a share down to 13 a share in January, February, March. It was pretty sudden. And then by June, it was up to 20. And now it's like hitting 25. So it's bouncing right back. I've like got, the guys that brag about how much they made on Bitcoin? Well, I actually made that just by, just some basic stock picks, just some random guess. It's the most I've ever made investing in my life.
Yeah, but I don't see how, if you have cash now, how you can avoid the stock market just on the basis that interest rates are fucked for everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So you kind of have to go into, like, my preference was just to put everything I was hoarding in cash into dividend stocks.
That works. I mean, it's pretty safe.
Well, my thinking is that I kind of have like an 80-20 or 90-10 setup with my portfolio.
Right.
And that's just on the basis that I figure, okay, if I have 80 to 90% of that money in safe stuff, I'm getting 6 to 10% interest plus the appreciation of the stock every year. And then if I have the remaining 10 to 20%, I can use that as play money and put that in shit like Bitcoin or African gold mines or, those stocks that can either go 10 times or they're going to tank.
Oh, yeah, those guys. I know I have a hard time investing in Africa. I still have that image of like some Chinese mafioso basically scamming everybody and opening a company to do that. But maybe that's just
it's like I remember like a dude I talked to did a lot of business in the Soviet Union the Russia, I guess, right after the collapse.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of hilarious because they bought the same building like 4 times.
Good on them. God, could you imagine Mystery Now having like an investment show? Like a non-Bitcoin investment thing? He's like, yeah, the pickup thing was great, but now I got to focus on it. I got a kid now. And then he ends up being good at it because all of his pickup skills, like the process translates very well on stock picking somehow.
Well, that's kind of the argument that a lot of that changed this space because most guys realized what we realized is that, okay, if you go through like first year Royce, first year Rolo, maybe a couple of mystery tapes, you kind of have everything red pill covered.
Yeah, for the most part.
Everything else is just kind of like nuance and, specific context stuff.
Yeah.
Which you don't really need until you need it. And at that point, you should have enough experience to figure that shit out for yourself.
Right. I just think of it like co-ops. Come back when you need something, leave when you're done, right?
Yeah, so the logic being that if you want to keep people around to keep the cash drain going, you're gonna have to move into side hustles. And I thought that was like the funniest thing ever because we got hit in like 2016, I think, or 2015 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We got hit with two major hypes. It was like the personal brand crap and the side hustle shit.
Yeah.
And
I
at
kind of want
that
to blame
point,
Tucker Max for that too, by the way.
like 80% of the accounts within the space started with their side hustle and their personal brand. So no longer were people just red pill guys who were just kind of having fun, sharing advice and doing this crap. It was, oh, by the way, I have a side hustle. I'm now into, juicing or olive oil, or I'm into steaks and only steaks.
The Trump steaks.
And Trump pies. And then and the whole thing was just, I think, kind of a reaction because suddenly people were starting to make this their living. And at that point, they're not going to let that go to go back to the office.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have 80 of those guys, everyone has their own take on the most important thing because we've always had that. Even back in the day, you had like the Looks Max guys, the Only Game Matters guys.
Oh, the game and the lifting guys. They still have battles to this day over which one's more important.
Yeah, you had all of those back in the day, but now you have this kind of thing where it's not really enough to be like slightly better than the average bear. Where, like the thing I tweeted out yesterday, like the average American dude has a 40-inch waist. If you're under 36, you're doing kind of decently.
Yeah. Which was weird. I didn't realize that would have come from like Colty. He's the last guy I thought who would have ever had like a humble moment of reflection tweet.
I've been kind of been following his feed. He actually seems like a decent dude, and I think he's actually, well, I haven't looked into him that deep, but he seems to be actually for real, which is kind of refreshing in that make money online space.
Yeah, well, supposedly, like, Rolo knows him in real life, so he says he's legit, exactly what he says. Like I said, for me, it's just while he's doing his branding thing, I'm like whatever on that. When I start seeing him as a person, I'll like him or not like him. Although I don't know, I don't get the impression he really gives two shits one way or the other, which is fine. You're kind of supposed to.
But I think that was like the major change that kind of kicked in, and that's why I made the jokes about the quartz anal plugs. Because everyone had to go for something, and some people went for something that's, let's say, sensible but exaggerated. Like, yeah, the guys who went into Bitcoin, the guys who went into lifting, the guys who went into diet, the guys who went into, power of positive thinking to some extent.
Yeah.
Or motivational speaking or whatever. And that's fine because, like, if you've been running game and you know all this crap for like 10 years, you're actually become quite decent at, selling stuff. You become decent at understanding people's motivations and how people are kind of screwed together.
Yeah, sure.
So it becomes like a natural transition. But I think the new age shit is just kind of
it's snake oil.
You have this thing in. Well, it's kind of like when you have this drug dealer thing, like don't get high off your own supply. And it's kind of like the same thing here. Like don't get high off your own chick crack.
Yeah.
And for
Your
those
name
who
is
don't
Terry,
know,
not Hulk. God damn it.
Yeah, and back in the day, like chick crack was like a catch-all term for all these small games you'd play with chicks when you were out running game. Mm-hmm. So you had the cube, you had like the what's the other ones? You had palm reading, you had numerology, you had MBTI.
See, it's funny. I never knew the numerology stuff was in there too. I knew about palm reading. I never liked it. I love the cube, obviously.
And had all these games, and you used to call them chick crack because they're entertaining to. It's entertaining to women, and they eat that shit up. There's a reason why there's like a horoscope column in every chick's mag. Even if you're just like for affecting the crap out of them, they just love it.
Yeah.
But at some point, some people kind of came out and they started buying into kind of this whole thing. And they're like, yeah, MBTI really makes sense. I mean, we should try and like see how compatible two people will be based on their MBTI scores.
Dude,
and considering they have like a half-life of like 4.5 months.
6 weeks. Half-life is 6 weeks. I looked it up. I'm like, I actually studied it, so I knew how to properly dunk on it. Yeah, 6-week half-life. Most of the time, the stuff is set just vague enough that you can pick and choose which categories you want to be in. So it doesn't have like what the MMPI-2 has, where they have the way they organize the questions. You have a guy who's good at analyzing it. He's able to see if you're falsifying answers, whether knowingly or not. Yeah, they don't got none of that shit. You can literally make yourself whatever you want to be.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting thing about it. And that kind of just built into more shit like this whole energy and vibing crap, the tanning your asshole.
I think it. You
All
know what?
these are just continuing extensions of like the same kind of theme.
Taking something and dialing the tism up to 12. Is that the theme?
I'm not sure if that's a theme. I think that's more of a habit.
I wonder, it kind of reminds me of, so back in the day, what was the first? There was Match.com, then Plenty of Fish, or was it OK Cupid, and then, no, Plenty of Fish, then OK Cupid, and then finally, like, Tinder. And there was this research they did, and they found out there was a cycle to these apps where you start off, the early adopters were all like attractive people that love to smash. And so you went on there and it was great. And then people were having success. So naturally, like fat chicks and ugly loser guys started going on to them and flooding the market. And then the attractive people would move to the next platform because it's like a regression to the mean thing, right? And the point they were making was that the cycle was increasing. So while Match.com had X amount of time, it was like maybe 75% of that was for OkCupid or Plenty of Fish. And then OkCupid was like half. And then they said Tinder was maybe getting 2 years, and then Bumble, and now Hush or Hinge or whatever. It's almost like that applied to the sphere. You know what I mean? It was fun.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you wear goofy shit, you have some fun, you pick up chicks. Then all of a sudden, everybody, because they couldn't think up their own fucking openers, they had to go to that same LA club and they'd hit on girls, and then the rejections got very like specific where, hey, are you with that group that was here last week? Because I just got hit by that like 17 times this week.
Yeah, I've told you the story, right? When I was in Poland and RSD were having a workshop in the same city.
You kind of mentioned it. I vaguely remember.
Because it becomes very hard to hit on a chick when like 25 dudes all in black jackets, black jeans, black boots with the same fucking haircut have just kind of run roughshod through that entire fucking bar district, hitting on everything in a skirt, including a couple of Scotsmen, a couple of drag artists.
Yeah, I don't get, there's so many obvious things too that would like alleviate that problem. Have them spread out. Like you're in a bigger city, you don't need to be at 2 bars. But I guess it's because they went there and like Owen would be like, all right, guys, watch me do it, and then you go out and do it. It was like a teaching environment, but then you make the classes too big because they got too greedy. So instead of having like 5 guys practice their own routines, it was 20 guys practicing the same routine. I think that was because they didn't know how to teach, though.
Well, it's also like Strauss used to say it, that I still think like the Who Lies More, Men or Women opener is one of the most ingenious openers someone has ever come up with.
Oh, you like that one?
But it's a completely dead opener because everyone was using it to fucking death.
Mm-hmm. It almost makes you wonder how many like hidden gem openers are out there, but they kept secret in like small layers somewhere because nobody wanted to ruin the vibe.
Well, it's kind of like the same thing I've been having with some of the make money online guys. Like, hey, I make millions doing this simple trick and you can do it too. And I'm giving you my secret because why?
Because it's already been smushed out. Everybody's already doing it. It's too late. I'm surprised people still don't understand that, though.
And it's the same thing with like openers. Like once an opener gets well known, it's dead. Mm-hmm. And same thing with the apps. Like I was noticing that towards the tail end of my days on Tinder, that it started to get more like in the beginning, people were on there because they just wanted to smash. Mm-hmm. But as time went on, the people who just wanted to smash went down. And the group of people who had bios like only here looking for relationships. If you just want to get laid, you can go to a bar.
Do you think that's what they actually wanted? Or do you think they just did that to keep the losers from trying?
I think it's a mix. I think some people did that to keep the losers out. I think a lot of people were serious about it because you kind of notice it because in the beginning, I didn't care. I just go on the date, try and smash.
Yeah.
And it used to work about 6, 7 out of 10. And then that number started going down. And it could be my game not being as sharp or me not being as motivated because that kind of the energy you bring in when you're running game is big. Like if your energy is shit when you're running game, it's not going to be contagious. You're going to bring the other person down. It's going to be harder to get them in that positive bubble.
Right. Oh, and for the
But at
audience,
the
we need to specify when he's talking about energy like that, he's not talking about like the fucking force. He's just talking about when you walk in, you're kind of excited in that, your body language is good, and people kind of feed off that and reflect your body language and mirror it back. So we're not talking about goddamn crystals. Get that thought
No,
out
no,
of your head.
it's just a normal thing. Like if you're at a party and it's kind of dull, and then one guy shows up and he's high on coke and has been drinking for 2 days, and he's like, "Okay, guys, let's party," and he puts on the music, he starts dancing around it. That will eventually bring everyone else into the party mood.
Yeah, good old mimicry.
Like I had one of those like 3-4 months ago at a dinner party where some guy's like, "Okay, let's just do one round of shots." After like 2-3 hours of wine drinking, and suddenly everyone was like, "Hey, let's hit the clubs."
Mm-hmm. And I would just say too, if people doubt the ability of one charismatic guy with some higher like energy levels to influence people, think about how many goofballs right now are wearing MAGA hats, texting in all caps in 2020. Something to think about. Don't even have to be in the same room as somebody. You don't even have to speak.
Well, just look at what's his face, Owen from RSD. He's been doing that shit for years.
Mm-hmm.
That's his entire MO is basically to be on cocaine.
Which is weird because he's doing. Wait, am I getting it right? Owen's the fat one, right?
I don't know. It's the guy
It's
who's
Owen and Tyler.
Yeah, it's not Tyler. Yeah, it's Tyler. It's not Owen. It's Tyler.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, those guys, I could never figure it out. They spam their ads on my YouTube videos, which is kind of annoying.
Usually get a cut of that.
Oh, I mean, I technically am getting a cut of it, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think though that's
Bigger
why
one.
I've got like a really like this channel has a really high CPE, like a dollar per 1,000 views, and I think that's because of Scott Jack, that Polish chick, and then the RSD team are like pumping money into anything sphere related.
Oh.
So I'm pretty sure I just did $1 million in revenue last year. I only did 990,000 in marketing. I think that's really paying off for them. But isn't that's like the business model you got to do? All right, guys, we're gonna make $1 million in revenue this year. I'm gonna spend 900,000 of it on marketing, and then 100,000 of it in salaries. I'm officially a millionaire.
Yeah, and then next year we're going to say we made $1 million doing this next year. Come join us as a partner.
Yeah. Cash out. Let's show the books with the equity. There you go. $3 million is yours. Dude, that'd be an awesome grift. Actually, I'm pretty sure companies actually do that. Wasn't that how the 80s kind of rolled?
Well, the 80s, if you think about it, like the Gordon Gekko hostile takeover 80s, there were kind of like two approaches to it. One was the one you see in the movie, where you have an airline with an overfunded pension plan. So you take that over and you can kind of screw with it, take the pension plan. Then there was the other one, which is the Mitt Romney did that when he was with Bain.
Okay.
Where they essentially take, because that was his entire sell to Bain, because they used to be like they still are primarily a management consulting company. But Mitt Romney's and his guys' entire idea is, okay, you know what? Since we know how to turn around and run a business, why don't we buy up companies that are valuable but poorly run? Then we run them properly, we drive up the value, and then we sell them again.
Seems fairly straightforward, doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, he made millions off that crap.
I still can't. Is he technically a Mexican? I remember hearing that around, where he's part of that Mormon contingent of Mexicans.
I have no idea, man.
They apparently have some compound. They're going to war over the Mexican Well, it's because of the Mexican cartel fetish I had when I was reading up on their stuff after they were putting heads on. It sounded like Fallujah, but like locally. And apparently there's a group of Mormons in a compound.
Yeah, like my take on it was just that I was interested in the dude because he made money. That was the only reason I read up on it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I got to get better interested in that stuff. Okay, yeah. So Christian says, yeah, that's definitely a thing, and his last name is Espana, so I guarantee you he knows the area.
Oh, that's I don't know. It's all kinds of weird shit you keep hearing about. All these kind of weird cults on a compound somewhere. I'm just waiting until like someone from the sphere does that.
Oh, dude.
I'm just wondering who it's going to be.
That's the thing. I don't even think it's gotten max crazy yet. Ever since I've found out about those breatharians, I'm like, there is a lot lower we could sink. Which is sad. That's the part that hurts me. That's why I like the on-point stuff, talking about like the 2000s pickup / red pill transition scene. Because I don't want to have guys that are like, yeah, I can just live off of sunlight. I don't need food and water. I don't want those guys sharing the same space as me. It's already embarrassing enough.
I actually support those guys because they're kind of taking themselves out of the gene pool.
Yeah, but it's never it's never the guys you want. Like it's never going to be AJ Cortez doing that. He's going to be telling other guys to do that. Meanwhile, he's sneaking steaks at the K in between his breatharian sessions. Meanwhile, the guys that actually believe him are going to end up starving themselves to death, you know?
Yeah, well, I guess that was kind of like I think we discussed this in an earlier show because I think back then, if you came into the space, there's no way you'd leave worse off than you were coming in.
No, as long as you
You
did
might,
something.
like, you may not come out optimal, but at least you would be slightly, even if you just went and did a Toastmaster course or bought some, I think Seven Genes was the one David D'Angelo recommended, or even bought yourself some nice fucking soap.
Mm-hmm.
At least you did something to improve your life by a little bit. It wasn't much, but it's honest work. And that's kind of where I think things fell off in the sense that now you can get in here, spend like 3 years working and be worse off because not only are you now fat, ugly, and you're also broke.
Yeah, got
One sec.
$100,000 in drop shipping. Somehow you have inventory in a drop shipping business. Who'd have thunk? Oh yeah, you're running doing your thing. Oh yeah, so if you guys don't know, I guess I'll do a quick announcement. Right there is a Glendalough Irish whiskey finished in Japanese barrels, and 13. Girl bought that one for me because birthday's tomorrow. Not that it matters from the spirit. So why is that important to you? It's not. I just figure it's time to celebrate a little bit here. Plus, now that I get to leave the 30s behind, I figure now I get to be an old guy, so I'm going to start wearing flannel and khakis and polo shirts and calling it a day. Bull Rush, the sphere needs an effing enema. You're hilarious, dude. But you know what? It's like, that's my goal. That's our Carl's goal too. It's like, all right, guys, you want to get laid and you want to have fun. That's basically the two problems that the red pill was aimed to address. The same things that pickup did. Guys want to get laid because getting laid gets it out of your system. It's like when you're hungry, you want to eat. So of course, a chef's course is going to make some goddamn sense. Then once that's done, what's left? Turns out there's no guy media. Like if you want to watch a movie that's catering to you as a guy, you either have to be 9 years old so you can go watch the Avengers, or you have to watch something from like the late 80s. Or maybe, I guess The Matrix, maybe some nerd stuff got cool there for the 90s. But that, you know what I mean? So that's like the two issues. And we were really good at it in 2000s. We just fell off the wagon for these reasons we're talking about. Like, for example, Mysteries thing, Keys to the VIP. If you guys can find episodes of that, by the way, give it a watch. It's actually kind of funny. Probably one of the better made television shows coming out of Canada, of all places. But I think it also killed, but that's the problem, is it kind of like we were victims of our own success. So if you don't know, Toronto, where I live now, has the nickname of the city that Pickup went to die, which is hilarious because Roosh and Royce and Jack Murphy are actually from DC. And to hear them talk about that place, it sounds like the ugliest hole in the wall on earth. Which it makes sense. It's politics, whatever. But I mean, imagine this. Like, picture this end state. And this is something ideally that'd be awesome. Picture you're single. You go out, you run some game because it's fun. You don't just go to the bar sitting with your friends drinking and then like awkwardly looking and shit. You actually go and you kind of make it an event. You go and you show off. You know how girls go to the bar so they want to have fun? Yeah, you go there because you want to have fun too. And you have fun running some openers. Yeah, you get shot down. Whatever. Let's go have a shawarma. You go home. You got, foam cannon Cancun parties. Remember the Man Show and it was just chicks dancing on trampolines? Like, yeah, and I get it. It's like a little bit juvenile, but it's campy juvenile. Like Police Academy, if you ever watched that. Or like the Griswold's Family Vacation shit. It was just like boobs in a comedy. It's good. It's fun. It's enjoyable. You can enjoy it. There's tons of it. A ski movie. We got to win back our grandmother's ski school, but I got this great plan that involves girls skiing naked. You know what I mean? And to bring some of that back, especially now when everybody's got a giant stick up their ass. Like, could you imagine now having a TV show on the mainstream media, like whatever normie channel you have, where one scene is literally watching girls' boobs dance. Or what's the Xbox one? Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball. Remember that game when that used to be huge? Like there was tons of guy content. I don't know if you talk about modding iPods. Oh yeah, guys. So I'm streaming this one to Twitch as well. It's kind of going to be fun here. So we got a multiple audience on multiple platforms. So feel free to check it on whichever one you want. If you guys don't know, twitch.tv/Ryan Stone RP. That's the link to it. You're more than welcome to check it out there as well. So whatever platform you prefer. Plus, then you don't have to worry about, I don't know how the ads work on Twitch. I'm very good at it. Your video's a bit effed up. It's always a bit effed up. It is what it is, man. Nothing I can do about that. The connections have been really weird lately. Yeah, so getting that back. Like, imagine that now. Now, we obviously got the pickup is pickup. Pickup is strictly, how do you get chicks? Run me through some options. Like, step 1, step 2, step 3, smash. Red Pill kind of expands on it a bit, going, okay, so you want to act, alpha, or what attracts women. That's great, but why don't we fix the underlying issues so you don't have to act? Because a lot of guys found that out. It was easy. If you go on the weekends, you have a one-night stand or a plate, you just have to turn it on for like 8 hours. Sure, you got a lot of prep work, you do your workouts and stuff like that, but 8 hours, that's all you have to do. And then they found, oh, that's great, but now a girl, wanted to spend some time with me, and now they can't stand me. I can't get past just like, 2 days a week. After that, it's just done. So like, all right, let's go back to the drawing board. And a lot of guys were like, you know what it is? It's that we were selling false goods. Yeah, it was fun and it was enjoyable, but eventually there's got to be some substance behind it. And that's kind of where the red pill went. Plus, a lot of guys noticed the same skills they learned on game, like Carl was saying. They work for marketing. Oh, it turns out I can sell stuff online. I can start up a drop shipping business and I can, become financially independent. Or with relationships, you're like, okay, it turns out that all that AMOG stuff, if I actually get to a place where those guys would sit there and like not put up with a little guy yapping at his ankles, turns out the qualities you need there, like, a good enough physique, decent hormone checks and control, your diet on point, and that, you don't have to practice a canned routine. It's the most sensible, natural thing that comes out of it. So like, that's great. So let's just take pickup as the fake it and then fake it until you make it. And that's kind of red pill there. Then the second part is, okay, well, how come every chick has a stick up her ass and she wants to talk about feminism and how guys are shit? And granted, I know a lot of it is manufactured. Like the brand economy has kind of like amplified it because let's face it, chicks with rich daddies end up getting journalism degrees. And what do they do all day? If you guys have ever met rich chicks, they love to bitch. If you doubt me, go on TikTok. Not just the Karen stuff, just things. You just see young chicks just complaining about everything. And it's almost like girls learn pickup because you'll watch their complaints and it's always got to have a bunch of displays of higher value in them. Like, I guarantee you, my girl has it and she shows me some of the funnier ones and they're almost all the same. The girl is saying, oh my God, I'm doing something normal because I don't like sex. And then this guy, who is super attractive but totally weird and creepy, tried to hit on me. I shot him down. Can you believe that, guys? And I was like, damn, these chicks know the situation. Carl's drinking scotch course, $4.97 on Gumroad. That actually is kind of funny. I will say this, but that's the thing, like Scotch, and Carl's going to probably like get really mad at me with this opinion. I think Scotch, the only reason Scotch costs more than the other whiskeys is because they're selling it as a premium thing. It's just oak flavored whiskey, essentially, oak and cherry. But the way people talk about it, it's so convoluted and pretentious. You got hints of this and hints of that. It's like, no, there's no way you got pineapple, lilac, and like mushrooms in that same thing. No, you're tasting some sweet notes. You're tasting some like smoky notes, that peat taste. Occasionally, if you get one of those really hardcore ones, it kind of has that, what's that shit that used to be in the like Barbasol taste. But that's it. I mean, for the most part, you don't need any of that crap. It's just, and because it's all subjective, there's no, well, you can't like it unless it's got quality A, B, and C. It's like, well, how about if it has a taste you like? Like, the only things I find that are negatives on whiskeys are when it tastes too boozy, which most of the time that's because you're selling them at like a 46%. You want to add a little bit of water to dilute it anyway. Some of them, they add way too much of a peaty taste to it, so it tastes like you're drinking an ashtray. Or when they add like sugars in there to artificially sweeten and color it, you can kind of just, it just has like an artificial taste to it. But other than that, it's pretty subjective. And that's kind of like this is me talking like that's game too. Yeah, there's not much to it. You got to be able to, the mystery method, I think the roadmap still carries well to this date. Just three things. Like, what is it? Your openers, your rapport, and then your seduction. So find a way to get in front of people, get them to engage you. Then once they've engaged you, build up some comfort because girls just don't sleep with any guy. You need to, know a guy a little bit first. And then after that, be sexually attractive. The rest is just logistics. And that's the simplest roadmap. I think Mystery peaked on that because it was 3 phases, and each phase had 3 subphases. So 9 things, 9 discrete steps you had to remember over a 7 to 10 hour period. And things get better over time because as you get good at the steps, you find sometimes you don't need steps. And sometimes you do need steps, and they kind of naturally flow into one another anyway. So it's like riding a bike. You don't have to think left pedal, right pedal, A1, B2, C3. You just kind of point and go. Because it just, but that's it. If you weren't naturally inclined to learn this stuff on your own, you can learn it this way and then get it going. But then what? Then you want entertainment. And I think this is why we have problems with like a lot of the brands here. Like Carl and I hate a lot of them. Well, not the people, just the brands. It's because they're lazy. Like all this branding, marketing shit is because people are fucking lazy, man. And I get it. Entertainment, and infotainment, it's not easy. Because if it was, everybody would do it. I think it takes effort and it takes work, and people have to actually enjoy what they're doing to get there. Like, I don't know if you, I'm assuming most of you guys probably watch my videos, but you see, like when I put out something, even the little things, I like to add something in there. Because it's just, I was like a painter. I was fine art degree in my first time in college. So that's when I first got into the sphere, and I was very creative that way. And I just thought that's awesome because, like, could you imagine if this had Russian communist level aesthetics to like a pickup space or the red pilled space? It would just be a bunch of dudes 1984 staring at the camera, preaching into it. You guys were like They Live with those glasses, and then You Will Obey. That shit there. Nobody's going to watch that. That's so autistic. I wouldn't even trust the guy saying it. Like, it's already cringy enough. Like, I have to add a logo or something. You know what I mean? But you got a guy telling you this is how you approach and attract women, but they're speaking too fast. They're staring into the camera. There's no shininess to it. It's like the medium is the message, Like, hey, Mish, what's going on, brother? Like, imagine this. Somebody's trying to tell you how to run $100 million company. He's sitting there in a 1-bedroom apartment wearing ratty clothes, unshaven, needs a haircut. It's like, yeah, his stuff may be right, but if you're learning it, it means you don't know it yet. And if you don't know it yet, you look at the guy. Does he look like the kind of guy to never watch Sterling Cooper's Comedy? I like those though, but that's stylized. But yeah, no worries, man. Fuck, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, and so you just look at him, you're like, is this the kind of guy that knows what he's talking about? Because and here's the tricky part where you kind of have to use your noggin, because a lot of times we don't know what, like a lot of guys don't know what a millionaire looks like. Maybe they don't know what a professional guy who runs $100 million companies looks like in his off time. So, but you're pretty sure they're clean shaven. They always look clean shaven because they have to sit there in front of boards and stuff. So you're kind of like, all right, so you kind of expect that. So half of it is, does the guy signal with everything else but his words what he's trying to explain? And if he doesn't, kind of lets you lead questions. Like I said, dropshippers, every like make money hustle guy I've ever seen looks like exactly what you would expect from a guy who doesn't have 2 pennies to rub together. Always that kind of like the designer clothes fetish. Like, guys where they basically live off of food stamps, but they have spinners on their really crappy car. That's what I treat a lot of this stuff like. So you got to make it. So if you can't make stuff entertaining, I can't really trust your ability to entertain women in order to get some. I really can't. But yeah, then you get some people who all they can do is signal to something or not. Nana's got the right idea. Here's the thing though. Once you learn a little bit, once you know enough, like just basic stuff, like Carl was saying, first year Royce, first year Rolo, a couple mystery videos, you basically got enough that if somebody's LARPing or faking or sending false signals, you're gonna notice something's off. And that's really the trick. And this is why I can't fault them too badly, because the lazy content creators that the lazy content creators that make really shitty signaling, like, nothing there kind of content about how to be great even though they're not themselves, it only works on guys who are too lazy to put in a modicum of work to learn basics. There, I said it. These shitty brands exist because people are shit. It's absolutely true, by the way. 100%. Like, every time I've seen it, it'll be... I want to name some names, but I'm just like, I don't want to start some drama right now. But that's the point. Like, everybody will have their own version of how to pick up chicks on Tinder, or how to run night game at a bar, or how to do an opener. And for the most part, they all read from the same manual, the same stuff. Like, Cernovich was a great example of this. Cernovich didn't sell shit. Cernovich never had nothing. Does anybody ever remember anything Cernovich has done? Like, what is it that Cernovich has offered? Yeah, that Gorilla Juice, which is, I don't even know what that is. Anybody ever use Gorilla Mindset? What is it? Do I have to look it up? Are you guys gonna make me look it up? Gorilla Mindset. I guess we can use them as an example. We're punching up. Oh, that's his book. Not that one. The stupid juice. How to control your thoughts and emotions. All right, I don't remember what it was, but he had some juice shit he sold. Yeah, nobody's ever used it. I have a feeling, though, if I were to go look it up, it would just be like a pre-workout mix. Something that's got some maltodextrin, a little bit of creatine, maybe some caffeine. There's stuff I used to use all the time that did that way better. The Ultimate Alpha Male book. Yeah, Gorilla Mindset. I should almost read it and add it, like, instead of just the sidebar series, have one where it's like, here's the books of the sphere. Because there's a ton of them. And I've seen the samples of them, and they're all shit. Like, no offense to the guy, but Turd Flinging Monkey's book is like Dr. Seuss for incels. Absolutely ridiculous. Coach Greg Adams, his book, I never liked his either. It wasn't well written. It's just sitting. He just took like some blogs and threw them into a book and hoped for the best. It's just very lazy. Didn't put any effort into it. And I would assume most of them. That Corey Capella guy, I read his, and it just sounded like the ramblings of a crazy man. Like, I understand now why people who do historical text have to do research, because if you just run your mouth, it just, what the hell? Ooh, One Man's Way. Thanks for the $5 super chat. All of these brands use mystery game for their audience, for that secret sauce behind the paywall. And to be fair, you're not wrong. So and that's like another level of subtlety. This is that when I was talking before about guys have to signal, like if you're selling yourself as like, I know how to make millions, and you look like you don't look like a guy who has millions, then it kind of makes you suspect. But those guys selling you like how to get chicks, your Tinder game or Instagram game or text game or bar game or whatever, and they basically treat you the same way they would if they were opening a chick, which is absolutely brilliant. But then it's not really the product. You're the product, if that makes sense. Those ones are hard, though. Again, it only works if guys are naive, gullible, or greedy. The greedy ones are the ones that fall for that how to make $10,000 every month by doing absolutely nothing. It's always six figures. $100,000, $99,999. You're just a beta male. You need to get 100. Like, come on. But anybody who's made money before will know you're talking about $100,000 a year. It's not some unattainable rich level of money. 100,000 is like, it's comfortable. Everybody knows it's comfortable now, unless you live in like buttfuck nowhere. But if you don't know what money is and you've never made more than 30 grand in your life, 100,000 sounds amazing. It's, oh my God, that's like triple what I'm living off of now and I'm comfortable now. It's like, yeah, pretty much. But the places you go to earn 100,000 have a cost of living that are commensurate with that. So you're just going to live the same life here with just more numbers behind everything. Ooh. Slav actually has a good point. He's over on the Twitch channel. Slump busters. This is the other thing I miss. It's not talked about anymore because everybody's not only taking it too seriously, but they're selling vapor. I want to make the slump busters a thing again. If anybody doesn't know what a slump buster is, it's if you're in a dry spell, and I don't care who you are, I don't care how much poon you're slaying, every guy gets a dry spell. 6-month dry spell happens to the best of us. Whether you're sailing, whether you're just striking out, whether you're busy, whether you just didn't feel like it, whatever. How do you get back into that? Well, if you get to these I only smash 9s and 10s crowd, well, you're pretty much screwed. I only fuck 9s and 10s. Sure you do, buddy. Here's the thing, though. A slump buster is a girl that you'll sleep with. It'll probably be fun. You won't brag about it. You won't show her to your friends. If she asks you questions, you'll probably be very dismissive because you don't really like her. In fact, you kind of have to not like her. Because by not even liking a girl, but still being horny, you will run your best game. Because there's no guy more aloof than a guy who doesn't want to sleep with a chick. And then you get that out of your system. And then you're like, that's good. You got that, got the jizz out of your head, and you can think clearly now. And you go, all right, go on, live your life. And a couple days later, you got the itch again. And so you go out to the bar, you run some game, and there's some pretty girls, and you realize, like, you're talking to one, and you're like, this is a lot of effort. I really should just call Dorothy and have her come down. And you know what? A lot of the girls that are like that you've kind of treated poorly, they end up being, I guess, appreciative, for lack of a better word. Because for them, you're a much hotter guy than she would usually get. So for her, it's great. She gets the chance to lock him down. It's like walking up to that girl, the hottest girl you've ever seen at the bar, and trying to pick her up. Like, that opener is like the girl's equivalent of sleeping with a dude that's like that and trying to lock him down. So it's a fun game. And you know what? You got shot down 100 times. This one gets shot down once. Nobody feels bad. You just do your thing. She gets appreciative. Had a bunch of guys do that. And yeah, you don't brag about it. You don't get online. Then it's like, I bragged. I did 9s and 10s. It's like, yeah, 9, kilos, 90 kilos, 100 kilos. But you're not locked down. You don't want to get locked down. You're just there for one reason and one reason only, and you keep aloof. And then when you're with new girls, if they start giving you attitude, you're like, I don't need this. Like, yeah, this one's not as good as you, but she's much nicer, and I don't feel like dealing with your shit. Now, here's the kind of dynamic that changes. I actually have an old post on it from my old blog. It was like, sometimes you got to work in the bush leagues. This guy, was in his 40s, 50s, I think, got divorced, had to get back in the game. He started off with like an overweight Puerto Rican girl, and then like a Jamaican girl, and he was kind of stepping it up. He's like, I went from 3s to 4s to 5s, then I had a 5, and then she was actually rather nice, wasn't anything special. And then he's talking about this story about how he was at the bar with a 7, and he was flirting with the 7. He was having a lot of fun, and then he noticed she started copping attitude, and he actually had this revelation. And this is the revelation. I love it when guys get it, where he's like, this one's hot, but that other one is so much easier, and I don't need to deal with this crap. And his entire game just changed. All of a sudden, there was no 9s or 10s to him. He didn't see 9s, he didn't see 10s, he just saw women. It's a good, smashable to brag, smashable to not brag, not smashable. That was the only 3 categories. He had 1s, 2s, and 3s, or as I say it, 4s, 5s, and 6s. Awesome. But then it didn't matter how hot a girl was. He would approach the exact same way as he would if it was like a 5 or a 4. He's like, all right, whatever. Because he had abundance, and that's kind of like the beauty of abundance. That's another thing that never showed up in the old pickup days. They never had that. They never talked about why you would want to go after one girl versus another. They just went, crank out the numbers, you'll get them all. Yeah. That's smashable. Yeah, it's funny. Isn't it funny how I'm simultaneously here trying to work with the language filter, but I've dropped 14 F-bombs already, and I think Carl called somebody a retard. Oopsie daisy. But little things like that. from the single stuff, absolutely awesome. Everybody, I don't think you're a man unless you've done at least one fatty in your lifetime.
I don't think you're a man if you haven't called someone a retard once a week on Saturday morning.
Yeah, I was just joking how I was like, I noticed how we're like talking about smashing to like work with the language filter, but we've dropped 7 F-bombs and you called somebody a retard 20 minutes in.
Yeah, no, I've been back for about 5 minutes. I just figured I'd sit here and see how long are you going to be able to run your mouth.
Oh, dude, I can do a 2-hour podcast easy. This is just because I like chatting with you. It's not because I need you here to help me carry the show. Heaven forbid, I find you pleasant to be around. I don't know.
I think that's the first.
The first what, compliment you've ever gotten?
No, the first time someone that actually find you pleasant to be around. I don't think I've ever heard that. Even my grandmother calls me a cocksucker.
Oh, fair enough. She was bad in bed anyway. Just tell her I said hi. But I was talking about how pickup back in the day, and like the first time we were in the sphere was all like numbers, just numbers game. But now they didn't say like why would you want to get with one girl over another, and I talked about slump busters and building abundance, and it's just kind of neat to see that evolution of like the useful part of the space.
Well, I just think that still needs to be a major part for the young guys coming in, because we had like, you remember upstream Twitter? Yeah, you do.
Of course I do.
But the whole thing there was, it was like, if there was a bunch of guys who'd kind of gone through all that basic training shit, and they were like, okay, you know what? We've been through it. We're tired of it. And we want to bring out a methodology for guys who want to settle down. I would have been like, okay, you know what? I'm all for it. Just on the basis that every guy is going to hit a point, or every guy, I think, who runs game is going to run into periods when he's in a relationship.
Of course he is.
Even like some like Troy, he's like kind of like the consummate bachelor, but he still ends up in like these short 2-3 month things, and that would really be useful for everyone to get some input on. So if you did that, like, okay, you smashed her twice, you played her, and you want to keep her around. What do you need to change?
That's just it. Maybe not even change, but just add.
Well, or, dial up and dial down, because we talked about that before, dialing down the alphaness and dialing up to comfort a bit.
Yeah, and it's all, a lot of the times that's all you need, but that's the problem, is that a lot of guys, because they have that, well, I don't need the pickup stuff anymore, I'm done. And then they completely throw away any of the desire stuff, and they just go full on comfort and validation seeking and just, choke a bitch's desire out. Wayne Brady style.
And I just think that would have been really useful. I also think there's room for kind of debating how do we integrate this with other things.
Like, what do you mean? Like, what things?
Well, being a useful member in society, your work, your other hobbies and passions.
Said like that. I just like the entertainment side of things too, though. Like, not just integration, but just, hey, you can't be picking up girls all day. You can't be sitting here working on, relationship skills all day. Maybe you just want to sit back and watch girls jumping on trampolines. Or what I want back, a genre of film I would love to have back, are like the campy nude comedies, like the Toxic Avenger. Remember the Toxic Avenger?
Yeah. Oh my God, I even had the action figure.
Oh, that's awesome. My favorite part of that was the time, I remember I was like 10 years old or something like that when I first saw it. And they took 2 fish, and the Avenger had him as like a nunchuck, and he was fighting a geisha chick, and then he hit her with it, and it knocked all of her clothes off, and then she went running off screaming. And I was like, that's got to be the funniest fight I've ever seen in my life. That's the Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins level shit right
Well, I've got a thing for those early 2000s coming of age movies like the American Pie series, Euro Trip, Final Destination.
Yeah, they kind of tried to bring it back, like that campiness back. They're not as good, but they are good.
Well, I think the reason why they struggle with it is just because it's the tongue-in-cheek thing. Like when you watched, not the first, what's the one with Bruce? What's his name? Is it Dawn of the Dead? Like those old Dead. George Romero. Yeah, Evil Dead, yeah. When they had the first one, that was kind of like a serious horror movie, or at least an attempt to.
Right.
But they kind of realized how ridiculous they were being.
And so they turned into like a comedy horror.
Yeah, but it wasn't like intentional comedy. It was it was intentional comedy, but it wasn't like too tongue in cheek and wink wink at the audience.
No, which I hate being pandered to like that. I really do.
And I think that's kind of where it's like Hobo with a Shotgun is another one.
Well, yeah, but that was the point, was trying to get nostalgic about them. So Hobo with the Shotgun, Machete. What was the one with Rose McGowan with the machine gun on a leg?
Oh yeah, that's the Grindhouse feature.
Yeah, yeah, all those ones. That stuff's all good, and that stuff all appeals to guys too. They just don't make it anymore. I'm pretty sure it's because guys don't spend money though, because guys lost their jobs in 2008 and haven't bounced back, or guys are too busy supporting the kids, so they don't have time.
To be honest though, that's why I love like Red Evenings with the Gay Boy and the Creep.
Which one is which? I never did.
Yeah,
I
asked the same question. Clary didn't get back to me on that one.
But yeah,
they
intricacies of logos.
Well, they're spending most of their time just talking about shit that isn't game, but they still field game questions and talk about what they're doing. Yeah. It's just not like a 4-hour lecture. It's not like Red Pill 101.
Oh, I know. Like, I was going to say, it was like those 1984-esque movies where it's always some dude screaming into the television to straight on, like a Max Headroom video or something. I'm just like, oh, seems so cringe.
And I'm just kind of waiting on, like, because we're getting, like, the SJW treatment in the space now.
What do you mean?
Because, well, the whole thing that kind of I find funny with that movement is that it's kind of started out as, LGBT.
Right.
Then it's LGBTQ. Then it's LGBT plus. Or whatever. And you keep dividing into steadily more and more identities to the point where you're not even sure you're part of the same community. And I'm kind of seeing the same thing happen here. Because it used to be like, okay, this shit is universal. It doesn't matter where you are, what your life status is. These mechanisms are universal. Game works regardless. But then people started breaking it down. Well, as a consummate bachelor from Boise, Idaho, which is a very conservative state with a high Christian population, here is how you need to run game here. And then you have another guy like, as an Alaskan sea fisherman, I find that if you're running game on pink penguins at the Bouvet Island, I know that's wrong. Penguins live in the South. Don't worry. Don't correct me. Fuck off. You need to focus on these things. And, as an Eskimo man living up in Newfoundland out by the coast, you really have to focus on igloo game. And it just kind of gets to, like, the division between night game and day game made sense.
Yeah. I mean, when somebody's drinking, there's an expectation. How do you do it when there's no expectation?
Yeah, and when someone's drinking, they're more relaxed, you're more relaxed. Yeah, you can ask financial questions, too. What was I saying? Yeah, so that was a logical division, because once you get a girl out and you're having coffee, it's in broad daylight, you're at a Starbucks. That's different from, you're in a dark corner at a club and you've both had 8 Jose Cuervo shots.
Yeah, and she's already shaved her legs and had 2 hours to put on her makeup, as opposed to, imagine that the first time the guy learned that he got shot down by a girl running day game because she didn't shave her legs and she didn't want to embarrass herself.
Yeah, that was one of the
how many guys have taken that as like a personal, like, oh, I didn't do the game right, and it really had nothing to do with them. I think that'd be
nice. Like, fuck, I haven't shaved my legs or my snatch in a week. Jesus, it's like a jungle down there. I can't go home with this guy now.
Yeah. I think that's how blowjob games started for chicks.
Yeah, probably.
How do I smash without letting them know that I'm an absolute slob with mismatched underwear and panties?
Well, it's kind of funny that way, though. It's like when you start to look into it, but that was a logical division. That was kind of the greater point.
Right.
But starting to divide that into, then you have online game, you have day game, and night game. And that kind of makes sense, but online is just a funnel in the same way day game is a funnel towards, night game.
Yeah, that's how I thought about it. Saying online game, it's like saying opener game to me.
Text game. But there are certain disciplines within it, but it's not like a standalone thing in the way day game and night game is. And something like Mediterranean Village by the Sea game is never going to be a thing.
I agree.
So that was kind of my general take on it. And I think dividing it up like that is just a way of kind of creating your own market. And it's like, okay, guys who are exactly like me. And of course, there are game variances. Let's say if you're in a small town and you go to like the one local place you can go out to drink where there's chicks,
Yeah.
that is going to be different from a club where in a big city where everyone's anonymous, because everyone knows that if you're in a small town and you smash someone, everyone else is going to know by the time you smash.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's like the difference between like a prisoner's dilemma and an iterated prisoner's dilemma. But that's where like game theory had a ton of opportunity. Not a single person that I've ever seen has brought the idea of game theory into all these divisions. They always talk about it like some value judgment. Drives me nuts.
And you know, for me, you don't need to divide it because all it does is kind of make guys domain dependent when they don't have to be.
Which is the worst part because that was like a very, if I remember correctly, that was actually one of the bigger parts of Mystery's thing. Like not domain dependence. Don't always have to have 3 drinks before you can talk to girls. Don't always have to be at the same bar. You got to be able to do it everywhere. And I remember because the game, they were talking about how they went to like Eastern Europe to go pick up chicks there, and they had some problems at the border, and he had to like game the border guards and shit like that. It's been a while since I've read it, but I do remember that part.
Yeah, and that was big. That was big with Mystery. It's that, well, it was all night game, but it was also like don't become dependent on that, because that was a big problem. Because most guys were able to smash.
Mm-hmm.
They were just very dependent on having their crowd. So the high school football jack had to be at that specific party with those specific people, or the guy who was really good in like airport bars or whatever. But he struggled, or most guys ran social circle game because that was the biggest one.
Yep.
Was social circle game. People who
It's got
can
the
game
highest
their social
success rate.
circle. But it's like you can't fuck all the girls in your social circle more than once.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that was the
much.
whole thing, getting outside of that comfort zone. And now we're making guys more dopain dependent again, because every guy is like, well, you know, I'm a bachelor living in, I don't know, Big Sky, Montana. I need to learn that horse and lasso game.
I can do that, by the way. I've roped calves.
Oh, that's a... Maybe you should move to Montana and start doing shows on that, like Ryan Stone's ranch game.
Oh, you don't want me at the 4-H. I only did one 4-H event. My sisters whooped my ass, riding the barrels like champions. No, I got to leave that stuff behind. I don't like, you know how the city guys always wanted, their dream is to go retire on like a small hobby farm, and my goal is to never have to see dirt again. It's whatever you had, that's what you refuse to have later on.
Well, I do kind of get where you're coming from with that, because like I don't mind the dirt so much. I'm just one of those guys. I know how much work it is when you have a big property.
Oh, yeah.
And if I'm going to have that, I'm going to have enough money that I can pay some Mexican to do it for me.
Which is funny because that's basically saying you want to live like a English aristocrat, where your lawn is a signal that I don't even need to grow crops on all my land. I have so much.
Well, yeah, I guess you have a point there. But for me, it's more like I enjoy doing some things. It's just like if I'm going to retire somewhere, I'm not going to retire to a place that make me do work I absolutely detest.
No, I agree. And I don't care who you are. Nobody loves farm life to the point where at 4 a.m. you love going out and like feeding cattle or like moving irrigation lines. Nobody likes that. Nobody.
Well, it's kind of like why I do follow, you know, the old guy at This That Does.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he kind of switched his entire brand around, and he's doing a lot of like homegrown crops and canning and doing his own shit.
Oh.
And I still follow him because I think that stuff is interesting. But it's the kind of thing you can tell that that's a city guy.
Oh.
Because like no one who grew up in the countryside is going to find it fun to run a small hobby garden, because we all had to grow up doing that shit whenever, regardless of the fucking weather. Oh yeah, what are we doing today? No, we're going to go out to the fields and we're going to till them, and then we're going to get all the rocks out of them. And it's like, fuck again.
Dude, my childhood, that's the one memory I have of things that I will never go back to, is picking rocks out of a field. I fucking hated that. I hated that.
That's the worst.
Burning of 1,000 suns. I hated that.
Yeah, the reason it's the worst job ever. It's like every year too. You have to do it every fucking year.
Yeah.
And you're there after like 5 years. how the fuck are there any rocks left in this fucking soil?
I know, and then every time, and then they harrow the fields and they're upturning the soil, and you just know it's coming. And then even then, when you're finished the rocks, all that means then is that, in 3 to 6 months, they're going to cut things. You got to swath. Swathing is like mowing a lawn for like hay. And then after that, you're going to have to flip it. That's where I ran over myself with the tractor. So I still got I still got a little scar in the back of my head just to remind me never to go back to that.
So I don't necessarily mind doing some of it, but it's just a general thing of I don't want my retirement to be like that. I want my retirement to be doing things I actually enjoy doing, because most people do things they don't enjoy for most of their career. And I enjoy what I do. I just don't want to do it forever.
I agree. The Village by the Sea thing, I have to admit, I can kind of get into that, but I've lived in a village by the sea, like Victoria, so I see the appeal of it.
Well, I like the idea of living near the ocean just on the basis of fresh seafood. Not that we need to go into like our full foodie shit again, but it's just like having access to fresh seafood is more important than having access to fresh beef, because beef actually ages well. Seafood ages like women.
There we go. We're back, fellas. Whammon, am I right? One Man Way, quickly, thanks for the $5 super chat. Yeah, and you're right, the pickled egg recipe video. I'll tell you right now, my plan is, after I'm done here, I got to go do some shopping. I'm going to do up like a cooking video advent calendar. I don't know how far into I'm going to get, but the idea is like a bunch of videos in the month of December, like how to cook a turkey, the mashed potatoes. Pickled eggs is good because I've only got 6 things so far, and I don't know how many I can do all together. But I'll
24
put that...
salsas, man. 24 salsas.
There's no such thing as a Christmas salsa. It's gonna be
sure it is. You just switch the tomatoes with cranberries.
Besides, I've only got 2 salsas I really know how to do, and I've already done both of them. I guess I could switch the tomatillos out for Roma tomatoes, but dude, those are like the least well-performing videos on the channel ever. Apparently, dudes just don't like salsa. They love tits, hate salsa. I can't understand it.
I don't get it either, but then I can kind of get to the point that if 90% of dudes have a bottle of sriracha in their cabinet, or they can buy like the finished salsa and just throw some fresh cilantro and some extra lime in that.
Ugh. Why would you do that?
I know a dude who does that.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I know a guy who got caught jerking off on a Zoom meeting. He's not saying he should brag about it, though.
Oh, I thought the other story was even better, though. Like the really like hardcore Christian anti-gay Karen who was in a Zoom meeting on her school board and decided to take a shit in the middle of the Zoom meeting and just set the computer down next to her, and it filmed her taking a shit live on cam.
Oh boy. Oh.
That would be a good. That would be a good Twitter poll, man. Like, what would you rather do? Get caught jerking off during a Zoom meeting, or caught shitting during a Zoom meeting?
Do you know what scares me about those polls? It's that I don't want the answer. Ever since I had that, would you rather like have anal sex or do your cousin? After that poll became like the Trump and Biden of polls. I was like, I never ever want to do a poll again because I don't want to know how many people are out there.
What was the answer to that, by the way?
It was like 57 to 43%.
What did you do, anal?
Anal beat out, but it didn't win by a landslide. That's
no,
way
but I'm
too
just
close.
wondering. Well, I think you should have specified. Do you mean like taking a dick, or do you mean like giving one?
Giving one. I said, would you rather do a girl in the pooper or do your cousin? Was the kind of the wording.
Right, but anal should win like 98% there. I mean, it should only not win out in like Alabama and Newfoundland.
Should, man. It absolutely should have, but for some reason, 40%, and I was scared shitless because I'm like, how many? And I didn't even say like, what's the third cousin? Like, whatever. I'm like, no, first, second cousin, maybe. And I was like, oh, like that's some flipper baby stuff. And I don't think as a human species, we're going to do very well when like degenerates, not my thing. My thing is more like genetic defects. It's like, don't tell me the sphere doesn't need some entertainment, man. Because
no, I made that point earlier because some guys like, how long do you think you can produce more red pill content? I was like, we ran out of red pill content fucking 5 years ago. Right now, we're just basically talking smack and having fun.
Yeah, talking smack, having fun, and then cycling through the old stuff because every time somebody new comes, they're like, "Hey, what's a Rolo?" And you're like, "Oh, for fuck's sakes, okay, man, here,
I
let
don't
me
know.
explain this."
My favorite thing though are the new content creators. I love them to death.
Ooh, who's your favorite right now then? Because I'm
Well, no, I'm being sarcastic. Just on
oh,
the basis that every guy comes in and he starts doing content, and it's like, oh yeah, that's great. We have like 8 dudes who did that like 4 years ago, the exact same content, and it's like that's why I like Ironwood.
mm-hmm.
And I think you should have like the red pill subreddit sidebar, just on the basis that hey, do you want to create content in this space? Read this shit first.
Yeah.
We don't need another take on looks money game. We've had like 7,000 takes on that already.
The looks money game, the 10 ways to know you're more alpha, 5 signs she's a hoe, and they're all the same thing. Everybody's been dick riding riches, like 7 ways to be a beautiful woman, cook and don't be fat.
Like, we don't need someone to be like, here is hypergamy explained in a new way, because Rolo has been explaining hypergamy in a new way on a bi-weekly basis on his blog for 7 years.
Well, that's why I like the content, like lately, the direction I've taken. It's that I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just unfuck upping other people's wheels is easy. Like, I think, what was the last one I just did here on the Pareto principle? I'm like, this is perfect. Guys have ruined that so bad. It's like, here's all the dumb shit you think it means, and that's all wrong. And you can do that forever because people are wrong on the internet all the time. And then I don't have to worry about like reinventing the Pareto principle in my own vision. It's like, no, we're just correcting shit. Even here, mostly what we're doing is just correcting people's stupid ideas.
Yeah, but the problem is that the people who need to hear this never do.
Well, I guess I should be more marketing. I don't know. Maybe
It's
I'll
like,
start
what
doing
was
the
the
John thing and wear like a flak jacket, and Sergeant Slaughter gear on the streams, and then I'll start it up.
Captain Canada?
Captain Canada. Dude, I can do that. I think I can double denim it up for a show or two. I know I have a denim shirt, a denim jacket. I just don't have like matching denim jeans. So I'll get some dark blue like 501s and I'll come on here full Canadiana.
You need to have like a denim hat too then.
Fuck, I'll have to find a denim bucket hat actually. Just because it's like 2000s pickup vibe. Boy, am I glad those things never came back though. I still remember. I wore one.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of like the lesson learned here is that everything eventually comes back because nothing really ever changes. It's like some guys said it at one point, like if you transported like Plato, Aristotle, Solon, and all the like old Greek political and philosophy dudes to 2020, they could sit there and listen for about 10 seconds and they could just be in the discussion, no problems, because philosophy and political philosophy hasn't really fucking changed in 2, 3, 4,000 years.
Nope.
But if you took like Benjamin Franklin and put him in the modern electrical engineering department, the dude would kill himself with DC before you could say key on a kite.
He'd be too busy hitting on the instructors. After my anti-American post where I say you guys owe it to the French that had a gripe against the English while you won the Revolutionary War. And then the first thing up was like, yeah, Ben Franklin fucked his way through Europe. I'm like, fair enough. USA.
Yeah, well, at least Thomas Jefferson brought his own house slaves over to bang.
Oh, yeah. You ever see that one? It was like a Key and Peele back before they went all SJW where they did the family tree shit with the DNA tests. And it was
I haven't seen that.
It was funny because it was like there was like a bunch of white guys, a bunch of black guys. Like it turns out Napoleon was my great 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 grandfather. Oh, mine was Wild Bill. But every black guy was like Benjamin Franklin. Wow, Benjamin fucking Franklin. But yeah, we lost those too because Key and Peele was like a nice like dudes comedy show. It was like the Dave Chappelle kind of stuff. Those are all gone now. Now Key and Peele are social justice. Chappelle's kind of doing his own thing. But he's kind of like skirting the line because he doesn't want to get in any, I don't know, it's hard to explain his situation. But you know what I mean? Like nobody's...
Yeah.
The only one I've seen lately that does it really well is Ryan Long. And I don't know if you heard of this guy.
Nope.
He's a comedian out of like Brooklyn or something like that. He's the one that did, like, he's doing those sketches on YouTube right now. Like there's one where he said like, a woke friend and a racist friend, but they see everything exactly the same. It's a really funny sketch. Or how his girlfriend's not helping him become more progressive because he wants to bang chicks on the side or something like that. But he's like very vulgar with it, and I'm like, this is awesome. They had him
I'm
on
gonna
Tim
have to check
Pool
that
even.
dude out.
Yeah, he had another one where he was doing like a BuzzFeed room where they were talking about the election, and they're all happy that Trump finally lost, and they all just sat there realizing like I can't talk about anything else, and so they're just having meetings trying to come up with anything to write about and freaking out.
Well, well, at least we can parallel that back to this space because my Twitter feed got real fucking quiet when I muted everything that had to do with politics.
Of course it did. That's all anybody could talk about for 15 minutes. Is this still happening? I think it's for the most part died down.
I don't know. I still haven't checked it, but it's like it kind of upset me too because I had to start blocking people I've had conversations with and that I've talked to for years,
Mm-hmm.
just because they started to go full in on that retarded shit.
Yeah.
And like, who got laid because they were a Trump supporter?
I think there was that one guy from the one article for that chick who wrote, I slept with a Trump supporter and it wasn't as bad as I thought. I think that's the only guy. The only one. But you know what it is? They're out of content. Because content is hard. It's hard to be creative. It's hard to think of something new to do day after day and week after week. And it's very easy to just talk about what people did because it's always changing. And all you have to do is repeat back what you saw. And it's lazy and it's easy. And I think that's why people are doing it.
Well, it's kind of like why I've been annoyed with journalists as of late because I like reading and learning the news.
Yeah.
But I don't think this person did this on social media and other people on social media are losing their minds is news. I think that's at
you don't like
best.
tweet quote journalism?
No, I even think it's lazy when people do that on fucking Reddit for the memes. It's like all Twitter screenshots.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's lazy and I get it. But I mean, I guess the one good thing coming out of all this political stuff is if Trump loses, all these outraged journalists are going to be out of a job because the industry was already dying. They got handed a gift. 4 years to shit on a misogynist? Oh, dude, sign me up. Now they're like, oh,
Yeah.
damn it.
Plus, like, our business is going to be fucking booming, man.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine all the guys that have been going hard in on Trump so they'd get their trad wife for the last 4 years, and now they're like, fuck, I'm going to have to learn game again.
Yeah, gonna have to learn a game again. Hey, guys, welcome back. Remember me? I talked about chicks. Let's do it. Like, oh, fuck you.
It's like, fuck, I'm going to have to get out of the shed.
It's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be that. You remember? I love this, like Cernovich, and I know it's working out for him, but I love how he's got like a small cadre of like haters, and there's always that one guy. Anytime he says anything, that posts, "Hey, remember that time you worked out in a pirate shirt?" And then that photo of it, and I just laugh. I'm like, that's gonna be awesome. Imagine something that stupid dogging you for the rest of your life.
Well, it's kind of like he had these. Like I was looking up. Which one?
Just the chat here. One man's ways $10. Talk dirty to me. Trump is still your president.
It's kind of like I saw this one meme here. I'll see if I can do some screen sharing here.
All right. Yeah, let me know when you see it. The other one I found, my girl showed me on TikTok too. It was funny. It's twins that were saying, this is like half an hour before we have to go to our separated parents for Thanksgiving, and then all you hear is the girls just sitting there and the parents in the background. You mean to tell me you voted for Donald fucking Trump? What kind of hillbilly shit is that? I started laughing like these poor guys with their Thanksgiving. Having said that, in Canada and Europe, we absolutely enjoy your Thanksgiving crap. It's so much fun to hear.
Here's the one here are a couple of the ones I like. They follow me, add me on Parlor starter pack.
Oh man, remember when it was just that one standard style at Oakley? I'm glad to see they've advanced.
Yeah. That one was good, and this one too was nice.
Ooh, I like that one too. Dude,
but I still think Parlor missed out on a great marketing opportunity by not naming itself Mindspace.
Fair enough. Don't worry, guys. This conservative social media platform is all about free speech unless it's porn. Right.
Yeah, but I like the fact that they're like, government is tracking me everywhere in parlors. Like, you have to upload your driver's license and your social security number to create an account. And they're like, okay, fine.
Oh, I know. I was like, dude, who the? As soon as I saw that, I'm like, no way in hell, no way in hell. I made like a burner thing, no information, just so I could like sit on the name, just in case some idiot tries to start replicating me. I think I got one on Gab too, but that's it. I'm like, done. I don't want to even look at that shit.
Yeah, the thing I liked about Gab, though, it was like all the people who got banned off Twitter.
Oh, I know Royce. I think Royce's still there, although I've never confirmed that it's actually him.
Well, is it like the real Roycey or is it
He's
like
talking
race war
about mud
Roycey?
sharking, so like
Yeah, that's
maybe.
not the real one.
So the real one, yeah. So the guy who really hated the black guy that stole his girlfriend, that's the second group of guys.
I think so, yeah, because it's kind of like the Wall Street Playboys, because you know they kind of tend to switch the people behind the account every once in a while.
Yeah, I remember Jack kind of drew that to my attention, Jack Murphy, and I've been looking at it and I realized I really liked who the first guy was, but for some reason I just lost interest about the time they started accusing him of changing up.
Yeah, like I think it makes sense for that kind of account because it's just like a guy who's making his way up there. And you know how it is in finance. I mean, you get to about 30, 35, and you kind of have to get out of that shit. You're going to burn yourself to death.
Right.
It's like people who actually survive in finance until they're like 48, they would be like the he-man of like a warrior clan.
But they'll have a heart attack at 50. But that's it. Isn't the only people that really stick around that long are the ones that made it high enough up that they're not the ones slogging every day, day in and day out?
Well, Adam Schwartz defined liberal.
Wait, what are we talking about here? Come on, guys. You
Now,
don't
some
even have
guys
free
asking,
speech
are
in
you
Canada.
guys
Full on Marxism.
liberals?
Like liberal part, like big L liberal or small L liberal? Liberal. Yeah, you don't even have free speech in Canada. Tell me more about the free speech you guys have in the States. I'd love to hear all about it. You got a piece of paper that says it, but if you don't enforce it, you don't have it. Look, man, nobody has 100% free speech. They just don't. And every idiot who runs his mouth hoping to get banned so he can appeal to like Fox News to get his book marketed, they just prove it. Yeah, the States has free speech. Ask Stefan Molyneux how that worked out for him.
Now, my personal hot take on it is like, if you want to rail against big government, you should probably rail against the Patriot Act. Not American style progressive, no, they're brain dead.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude, people don't realize how pervasive the Patriot Act still is. Like, you know how there's this thing where MasterCard, because MasterCard and PayPal are essentially the two monopolies that control, like, if you want to do trades on anything online, if you want to use your credit card online, at some point those two are the bottleneck. And MasterCard actually has within their policies a policy where they want to expand globalism because it's really good for them as a bottom line thing. And that's why a lot of guys who were talking about like nationalism, like that Sargon of Akkad guy, they started getting their fundings cut from places like Patreon. It wasn't because Patreon didn't like them. It's because their credit card processors were like, yeah, get rid of this guy. Like they had that kind of pressure.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an interesting take, though. Like,
Yeah,
can
but
a
that's not,
company
well, sorry,
that
but that was one sec. That was how they finished it, was because of anti-terrorism money laundering laws that were put in place. It actually helped those two guys consolidate power and take a lot more leverage against national economies like that. And that's literally how the Patriot Act has ruined guys' ability to talk about, Trump or, Brexit online. And people don't really realize that.
no, and even like if you look at if you look at free speech in the state, there are limitations to it. I mean, the famous one is yelling fire in a crowded theater.
I thought they shut
And
that one down. No.
no, that one's still in, and you also have the one with you can't be like, go kill that guy. Everyone should kill that dude.
Oh, incitement. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, incitement is kind of out too, and I just think it kind of comes down to like, if you want absolute free speech, I don't think that's tenable.
No, it's not. And so that's my argument, is that there's always going to be some restriction. Instead of just assuming there's no line, have a line, and then you can at least argue about where to put it. Now, granted, this just
Yeah,
comes on the heel end of Adamson's barbecue that just got shut down here because the guy decided to open and flaunt COVID regulations. And then 50 cops are standing outside his place right now. I even threw them like a little donation there because I'm like, you know what? I like barbecue. They're doing Texas barbecue on Etobicoke. So I actually do want to go down there. And I don't like the idea of a guy losing his job because he just wants to be open.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with your take on the free speech too. That there kind of has to be a line there
Yep.
because you can't be like, oh yeah, it's fine to incite violence. It's fine to threaten
Libel,
people,
slander.
libel, slander. You kind of have to criminalize those things. So at least you can have a debate about, okay, what actually constitutes libel? What actually constitutes slander? What
Yep.
actually constitutes a threat? What actually constitutes incitement? So that at that point, you can have a debate on the issue where you can actually get some progress done. Because if you're like, if one guy's like, nope, I want to be able to stand here and incite to violence, and the other guys are like, no, you don't get to say anything. Period. Shut the hell up. Both of those guys are kind of wrong, but you need to kind of find, okay, where do we as a group think it's okay? And I'm not a big fan of government regulating anything. It's just sometimes you see it's kind of sensible. Like same thing with safety procedures and safety rules for nuclear power plants. I'm not necessarily a huge ass fan of government regulation, but I think we kind of need to have those.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No arguments for me.
Because we know what's going to happen. Because you saw that in the Soviet Union, you got a bunch of guys who were building nuclear power plant at lowest possible cost, and they blew the fuck up.
Appropriation. Sorry, yeah, they did, and it was lazy. In fact, wasn't even their solution lazy? They just put a dome over top of it like a Simpsons thing, and then just filled it with cement. And like there,
Yeah,
fixed.
cement and lead.
Cement and lead. Meanwhile, I don't know if it did more harm than good, but I don't know. I'm not Russian.
Well, the Chernobyl dome cracked, so they had to go in and fix it.
Yeah, but I mean those things are always there. Everybody always has it. I think, and I get a lot of guys like having the ideal. When you say free speech, like Adam's mouthing off again about First Amendment stuff. Keeping in mind we got a European and a Canadian here, so having this American debate. First off, congrats. I'm glad you guys know your own amendment or your own amendments. Most Americans don't. But secondly, like, what answer do you want us to give? You're right, we're wrong. America's number one. Now go enjoy your lockdown and stay away from your family at Thanksgiving. It's like, what do you want from me, man?
Well, I think the main thing I get from debating a certain group of Americans that kind of it makes me understand why they're 27th in literacy.
But yeah, and it's the nuance thing. Like Canada, yeah, our free speech is contingent on like the public good, which is such a vague thing. And you already see like examples where things go wrong with that. Here's the point though. Red pill's never been about how can I change the world to make it great for me. It's never been that. That's that trad life, Deus fool bullshit. It's just here's the life. What life do you want to live? And here's how you map that life you want to live with the terrain as it currently stands. So you want to shit on like Canada for not having species. That's fine. I just know then there's certain rules that I cannot break. There's certain rules I can bend, but I can't break. And there's certain rules that only matter if somebody's got it out for me. And so now that I know that, I've got a particular amount of constraints. That means I can run my mouth on YouTube without getting a block as long as, I don't egg on somebody who's got it out for me. And this is where I find a lot of guys get it wrong. Like how many guys, Carl, do you see that decide to online argue with like college feminists, communists, journalists, like all those kind of like basically the people who have a fuck ton of time, are overeducated, and have the ability to like ruin livelihoods. It's like, why would you start fights with them? Why?
Not to victim blame here, but it's every guy I know that's been booted got booted because they were asking for it.
Yeah.
They were going out of their way with the Eric Bischoff business model. And at some point, they crossed a line that they shouldn't have crossed, and they got banned because the social media company or whatever came under pressure
Yeah.
for having them on there. And if a company is like, okay, we're going to lose 100,000 customers and we have to ban this motherfucker, they're going to ban that motherfucker. It's the same thing in the club. If you have like 200 people in the club and you have one guy in there creating trouble,
Oh yeah,
you're going to kick that guy out instead of having the other 199 leave.
Heck, even if the girl's causing trouble, a lot of times they'll still kick the guy out. Like girls have an amazing amount of power at the bar when you got a bouncer simping for you because they know girls are what bring in guys to go spend money. So yeah, Get rid of the one guy. Yeah, he got one bottle. Good for you, sir. We'll see you next weekend. Get out. I
Yeah,
wonder if
like
that
it's
was like why we have a better understanding of navigation now because of those like small little bar examples.
well, that's one thing, but you just have to kind of be. You have to figure out what you want to do. Like, yeah, like Terrence Pop too, but he's constantly goading a ban.
Yep.
That's why he has like with this whole infrastructure. Like, I have no infrastructure set up if I get banned off Twitter. I figured if I get banned off Twitter, I'm just gonna fuck off.
Fair enough.
I have other things I want to do with my time. I mean, like my biggest issue now isn't necessarily I'm running out of fucking time. Not like I've got cancer type running out of time, but I have to constantly prioritize between the shit I do.
Yeah. I mean, everybody should.
And ideally, that should be your way too. And that's why kind of the trads kind of pissed me off because they were spending so much time trying to be like, we have to go back, we have to turn back time, we have to take away women's right to vote, we have to get back to the nuclear family. And it's like, that genie's out of the fucking bottle, man. You can't just get rid of the pill, get rid of is it 21st Amendment or 27th?
I
don't know. You can't
27.
take away women's right to vote. You're not going to be able to do any of the shit. You can't get, an average working class family to survive on one income anymore for the most part, unless like the guy has a really high paying job.
In which case, why aren't the trads on money Twitter then talking about rolling fat stacks?
Yeah, exactly. Like that should, but you have to look at like what's the life you want and how do you practically get there. And being very smart is generally not how you get there. Being diligent and being studious and working hard is how you get there.
Yeah, well, not even hard, just smart and consistent. I don't think hard work exists anymore, other than like some manual labor jobs and maybe like super specialized tech and research. Because this takes time. This stuff, the podcast, the videos, writing a book, those take time. But I wouldn't consider them particularly difficult. Like it's not taxing me to the point that at the end of a hard day of writing a blog post, I lie down and have to just stare at the wall blankly. You know what I mean? And I don't think you do either.
No, and I don't know. I think everyone the best thing you can do is essentially the serenity prayer. Like, give me the strength to change the things I can, and the courage to change the things I can,
the strength to endure the things I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing. Like, you're not going to turn the world around. Like, if you want a trad life, find a girl that wants that.
Mm-hmm.
Buy a homestead or, get a job and work towards things you can do to enable it. Don't look for like the Catholic Church to make a resurgence and put back, inquisitions. That's not going to happen.
Oh, dude, the Caths hate me, man. I said that once. They're like, we need to go back to a simpler time and all that shit you talked about. I'm like, why don't you guys just switch over to Mormonism? Because they got like a city where they're setting it up pretty good. Tanner will hook you up. And like, yeah, no, they didn't want that. All right, fair enough. So you want that, but you just don't want to have to work for it or change anything that's happening now. Does that sound a lot like the old average frustrated chump? I want girls to flock over me, but I don't want to lose any weight, change my clothes, cut my hair, or become charming. I just want it to happen.
I think it's just a different spin on AFC, man. I think that's kind of the core theme, if we have one for like the red pill, is that the AFC will always find a way to spin it to not have to do any work.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like back in the day too. Like, yeah, but I don't want to learn game. Yeah, but I don't want to shower every day. Yeah, but I don't want to have to get a decent haircut. It's like tough shit.
Yeah. Well, then you better get good at jerking off to porn game. Don't worry, I got a great course for that.
Yeah, it's only $4.97 on Gumroad.
Yeah. The first part of the course, look up Sterling Cooper versus, and then just continue on with whatever playlist shows up. You're good to go.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I actually do like some of money Twitter just because of their emphasis on having to do shit for yourself that is useful for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of what I don't like about the whole trad tribe shit or any other type. It's like, okay,
everybody else needs to fix the world for me thing.
Yeah, we just need to find a group, and then that group will fix shit for me. And I just find that to be like the laziest fucking thing ever you can do. And like the biggest change I ever made in my life was just getting to the point where I was like, okay, you know what? No one is going to fix my shit for me. I'm going to have to do that myself. And then that's kind of like the process I outlined in Gendernomics too.
Right.
where you kind of sit yourself down.
Still
Sorry,
there?
quick
Oh.
sneeze. Yeah, quick sneeze. No, you
You
sit
sit
yourself
yourself down.
down and you have like a solid take account of where you're at in your life and be brutally honest with yourself. And then you kind of work from, okay, how long will it take me to fix this? What do I have to do to fix it? How do I want to map those things out in terrain going forward? Like, let's say you're in debt, you're living at mom's house and you're fat. Okay, you can start working on being fat right fucking now.
Yeah.
You can start working on, fixing your finances right fucking now. It's going to take time, but you're going to be able to do that.
You're going to set yourself up for success and leave your crappy marriage, start a new one. But that's the thing. This is why I don't think guys want that. I think they just want to complain. Because let's say my problem is weight, and then they lose weight, and then they still don't get what they want. I think that reflects on somebody at their core. It's like, oh, so it's not just because of some external thing that I can't control, my thyroid problem. It's that arguably I'm a piece of shit and nothing will ever love me. So as long as I keep this excuse, this buffer in the way, I never have to address the cold-hearted fact that somebody might not give a shit about me regardless of what I do. Which is such a weird childlike attitude to have where you're so worried that mommy won't hug you.
Yeah, and I think you're very on point when you say like people just want someone to call them a faggot so they can be like, yeah, I'm a faggot, and then not do anything.
Yep. It's Catholic confession, man. Catholic confession for secular guys in the sphere. Here's your Hail Marys. Your Hail Mary is to call yourself alpha 15 times. Here's your rosary. That's the 15-point Gumroad course on how to be more alpha. Don't read it, just buy it. And I can't think of any other. And drink scotch as your like wine communion, and your wafer has to be made of bacon. There you go.
Yeah,
You're officially a man, sir.
I did find that to be one of the most interesting fucking things about that whole thing you guys were doing like about 2.5, 3 years ago.
Okay.
How symbol heavy it was.
Oh, I know. So weird.
Because it was all about the symbols of masculinity. It was cigars, it was scotch, it was beer, it was weightlifting, it was trucks, cars, guns.
Guns are manly unless it's a Derringer. It's got to be a big gun. You need to have a car. It's cool, but it can't be a Miata. It's always something had to be masculine. And then I'm like, you know what this sounds a lot like? This sounds like marketers saying real men drop fucking tires in the back of their Ford 150. It's like, dude, a Ford 150 ain't having nothing dropped in the back. It's a half ton. Like, fuck off.
Well, I just saw that. Did you catch the guy who got so much fucking flack? Well, it's like trucks have this reputation as the vehicle of the common man. Do you realize a Ford F-150 costs like 90 fucking grand?
Jesus. Is that what they cost now?
Yeah, that's more expensive than a couple of European sports cars. And at least in my opinion, like European sports cars are much more comfortable to drive. Like I like trucks just on the basis of if you have to load shit.
Yeah, they're a working vehicle.
Yeah, they're really good if you need to shoot like videos calling Rolo an asshole from a Walmart parking lot. They're awesome for that too.
That nice Tacoma taste. Just mwah.
Like, I'm not sure why people insist on doing that in Honda Civics. Like, why would you do that? Like a Honda Civic, electric Honda Civic. It's like a car you'd buy your fucking second wife.
Yeah. I think it's just what they had, and they can't film it in the house because if their girlfriend or wife hears them ranting about stuff, about sexual dynamics, she'd laugh at them and make fun of them and shit on them later.
Yeah, but I made that mistake back in my day, just like trying to talk to sexual dynamics with a girl because I just banged her. And she started talking because apparently she'd read the game or something like that. And she was like, yeah, that pickup stuff doesn't work. It's all a bunch of nerds just trying to make stuff work. And I just walked over to my bookshelf and I pulled out the game and I was like, I used this exact opener on you.
I like that. That's actually good.
Yeah, she didn't find it funny. I did,
chicks don't find it funny. That's the point. She'll laugh. You laugh hard enough, even the angriest girl will laugh. I found that out the hard way.
But like back to like the whole thing with getting banned, it's just like there are certain communities you don't fuck with.
Mm-hmm.
for a variety of reasons. Like, you don't fuck with college-age feminists because they have all the time in the world to fuck your shit up.
Yeah.
You don't fuck with like the Bitcoin community because there are a lot of guys in there who are smart as fuck. And
with a lot of time on their hands.
with time on their hands, and they're single track enough to do some shit.
Yeah.
Same thing with the black pills. I don't even mind if people want to go black pill or if people want to go MGTOW, to be honest with you, just on the basis that what we propose or what we offer you is the opportunity to work to create the life you want. That's going to involve doing shit you don't want to do, things that suck up your time, things that require that you do hard things.
Right.
It's not an enjoyable process to go from AFC or, average dude to someone who can actually smash and who has the life he wants.
Yeah, you got to swallow a lot of pride.
Yeah, and most of the time, you're not even going to get like all the way there. You're going to get some piece of the way, and hopefully that's far enough to where you're reasonably content. Mm-hmm. So I kind of get guys who are like, you know what? I'm not going to bother doing that shit. I'm just going to focus on something else. Like, I'm going to focus on stacking money, or I'm going to focus on, this interest I have, or this business I want to start.
Something that I'm good at and like doing, but has nothing to do with what I actually want.
Yeah, but I don't mind if people want to do that. It's up to them, really. But they should just know that, okay, those are your alternatives. And if you have those things, then Isaac Newton spent most of his life inventing a new style of math and figuring out the universe. I don't think the guy got laid once. If that's you, go for it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and Tesla. Yeah, that's why I like Tesla's example, too, because that's exactly the same thing. He never got laid, and he invented everything. But when he died, I remember it was the FBI or something went in there, took an inventory of everything they had. And they're like, yeah, the last 15 years of his life, he didn't really do anything of note. He was just kind of LARPing. So like even those, like Isaac Newton, I'm sure he did amazing things for calculus, but I wonder if it would had today's level of scrutiny, if they found out that most of his time was just fucking the dog and he did one set of awesome things early on in his life and then just coasted on them for the rest of it.
Yeah, but that was a fun fact because I actually looked that up at one point because I got a lot of shit when I tweeted out, if you want change to happen, start getting old fucks out of positions of power. And the whole basis of that was, and I got a lot of like kickback of, not kickback, but feedback on that. Like, we have to trust experience. We have to trust our elders. We have to rely on those. And I kind of looked up this thing, like, when did people do their best work?
Oh yeah, isn't it like 32 or something young like that?
Well, it's like essentially between 30 and 40 people do their best work usually. In some fields, it's like if you take football as we call it, or soccer as you fuckers call it, your best attackers are usually going to be in their mid-20s. Your best goalkeepers are usually going to be in the mid-30s. Because they're different positions. Same thing with hockey. Like, your best goalkeepers are going to be older than your best active players out on the ice, just on the basis that they don't have to move as much. And what they do is largely, they've seen this exact scenario before, so they can figure out how to work it.
Yeah. What's another one? Quarterbacks tend to have a much longer career than like defensive linemen.
Yeah. And let's see, I'll see if I can do that stat.
About the changing it up and getting the old people out?
Yeah, the ages when we do our best work. I think this is the article.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it'll be like, it's like I remember this one. It's like a chart based on occupation. Yeah. Like the best thinkers and when they do it. And you'll see, like, depending on the ones, I was actually surprised, if I remember correctly, when you show this one, mathematicians were actually on the younger side. And you figure that kind of intellectual work would happen better with older people. But for them, it was just, older people have a set way of looking at things, and then they completely mine out the field based on that set way. And then it takes a younger guy who is thinking about, who doesn't have that same baggage to like open up any new avenues. And so you got that churn. Yeah,
that was kind of Einstein's thing too, because he used to say that it's not necessarily your IQ or your thinking capacity, it's the combination of IQ and creativity.
Which I can buy that.
Yeah, I can do that too, because like when you're older, you're setting your ways, and like you can see why, like this old joke I shared, like with the doctors, You know what it takes to change the way the medical profession practices?
How's that?
A generation of doctors have to die.
Fair enough. I guess,
And
yeah, 5 out of 6 doctors don't suggest smoking anymore, so.
yeah, here's the. I think I should have a screen share up now.
There she is.
And what you can see from this is like mostly 20s and 30s for physics, chemistry, computer science, and
Let me
mathematics.
get this thing out of the way. What's that one at 50s?
50s is Fourier. That's the Fourier. I remember reading about that. It's is it transformations? But you have a few dudes who do their best work in their 40s, and you have 2 dudes who did it in their 50s. But if you look at it, like most of the scientists kind of group up in their 20s, 30s, and then you have some in their 40s.
Yeah. Basically, the cluster's in the 30s, and then it slowly spreads out past there.
Yeah, and then you have the same thing with
I kind of like
with
that.
a lot of different professions. Because if you look at the Oscars, let's see, I'll grab that one. Just going to turn on and off sharing here, left and right. So
That's fine. Can I not just say at this point, I love dunking on IQ? Because people get so fucking mad about it. Like
yeah,
my latest
same thing if you
one,
dunk.
education increases IQ, like weightlifting increases height. And then there's
Yeah,
always
here's
some guys
another
like,
one.
yeah, brings up, well, technically the crystallized blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, fuck off.
Like Olympic gold medalists, an average of 22.
Yeah, that makes
NBA
sense.
MVP, 28. Best actress Oscars, 36. Best album, 40. Best actor, 44. Hugo or Nebula, 44. Best director, 47. S&P 500 CEOs, 55. First term U.S. presidents, 55. Nobel Prize in Physics, 55. And this is not necessarily saying when they're doing their best work.
It's just the
This
average
is just
age that
saying-
guys are.
When did they reach this achievement on average?
Super interesting. I guess, and
And-
then from the sphere point, here's my question on this one then. Tie it back to the subject at hand. How does that get there? Do you think the sphere, do you think, because your 20s, obviously I've had more success in my 30s than at my 20s. 100%.
Yeah, same.
And I'll let you guys know about the 40s. I got another 10 years to sort that one out here. But from what I've seen, Rich talks about his 40s like, dude, my 30s were a pot of piss compared to. So I don't know when guys peak. I don't think there's any guys in the sphere have gotten through their 50s. Rollo's like leading the charge on how do your 50s work in the sphere. So we'll see how that happens. What's he, 53 now? Or 50?
Yeah, but I think in essence, what I would say is like you're probably going to start declining between 50 and 60 for most guys.
Mm-hmm.
But it also depends on like if you're on TRT, you're doing HGH, you're keeping yourself in shape, you're eating clean, you're doing everything right that way to take care of yourself. I can see you extending that to well into your 60s. Like Sean Connery was fucking 20-year-olds until he was 80s or something.
True. Yeah, how old was he when he died? He was like late 90s, wasn't he? Or something like that?
Yeah, like 95.
Yeah. I'm doing hot. It's not hard. And it's not hard. You won't be the same guy at 20. So yeah, you have to hear a bunch of guys at 22 who have it all figured out and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But like, whatever. I was that way at 22 too. So like, yeah, you go get him, guys. You got it, Tiger.
But I think in general, like with men, I think we peak in like 30s, 40s, 50s is probably like the best one. I think 40s would probably be like the top. Just on the basis that if you keep yourself in shit, and there's a lot of caveats here.
Yeah. Oh, there always is.
You have to stay in shape. You have to take care of yourself. You have to keep your game sharp. You have to actually have worked in your 20s and 30s building towards the Senate. Like Rich is in kind of the position he is. He made some mistakes along the way, but he's in shape. He's building his businesses. He's doing all the things he's supposed to. So I can see his 40s being great.
Yeah.
If you get to your like 35 and you're like, well, fuck it now. I'm going to stop doing game. I'm going to start drinking every day.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
going to
fuck
be a
it.
quick decline.
Then that decline is going to be quick because men are what we do more or less. Like women can fight the decline too in the same way men can.
Mhm.
Like I'm not sure how many people caught like the Jennifer Lopez album cover.
Oh, the newest one? I haven't seen it, but I know where you're going with this. I think she's pushing 50 now, and she still looks
Yeah,
good.
she's 51 and she's still in shape.
Granted, she puts a fuck ton of energy and money into that one.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, if you want to do it, you can do it. It's just like I've seen girls in their 20s who are less tight than Jennifer Lopez. Like the average college girl is going to
Yeah.
have those freshman 15 on her, bit of a pot belly.
Oh, inflation, man. It's a freshman 35 now.
Oh, holy shit. What are they eating there?
I don't know. I think it's the too much soy in the food.
No, I just think we need to get back to smoking and doing cocaine.
Hey, you know what? At the very least, they're uppers.
Well, I think
yeah,
they're going to
and
stop
they
the
have
obesity crisis.
I guess we should end this one, though. It's going to be on this channel. I'm going to have some breakfast. And then we're going to do Rule Zero here. I don't know. Were you going to be able to show up to this one, or are you busy today?
I don't know. I'll see what I feel like.
All right. So I got the link on that one. Yeah, guys, it's going to be on this channel.
What's the topic today?
The topic, we're going to talk about male emotions and manipulation. It's like all those reasons. Because I was thinking, like, everybody's all MAGA. Like, all of these kids are all MAGA, and they're very emotional over Trump, and they're getting riled up on this. And then Peterson with his thing, he's getting all riled up on that. And every guy is emotional, and all these emotions are being used to kind of, like, grift them out of money or time or effort. You know, Susie across the street starts touching his dick. All of a sudden, emotionally, he's tail cooked. I figure everybody loves talking about guys being stoics. Why don't we talk about guys as emotional, fucking weak-willed people and show how it happens and why people are doing it?
Yeah, that's a good topic.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a popular topic. Nobody wants to be berated on shit that actually matters. They wanted that fake ass indignation that you just bitch.
I'm kind of worried about like the people who are gonna need to actually come to terms with that shit too. Are they gonna be actually able to process it?
Not my problem. I'll just bring it up. They can do with it what they want.
Because like every guy who went hard into like the MAGA shit, into the Jordan Peterson shit, into all of that stuff, it's an emotional reaction.
Oh, 100%.
Like I would probably have voted for Trump if I was in the States at the time and was allowed to vote.
Yeah.
But that's because Republicans generally cut taxes, and I like taxes being cut.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, if I was in the state, like here in Canada, I hate to admit it, but Clinton would have actually been better for us. Like we would have had way better NAFTA terms. Trade would have been better for us. But I think that's why Americans voted for Trump, is because it wasn't better for them. So I get it.
Fair enough.
Anyway, whatever. I'm going to end the show now. I'll see you guys in like half an hour.